Hello everyone and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to cover Pandas basics. So Pandas is a data manipulation and analysis tool that is built on NumPy, which is what we covered before in the previous couple of lectures. And Pandas is actually super powerful when it comes to dealing with data. And we are going to use what we call it the data frame. And think of a data frame as kind of, Microsoft Excel in Python. Okay, so it's going to be super easy and super powerful to deal with tabular data and to perform a lot of data manipulations using Pandas. Okay, all right. So as always, we are going to have our skeleton file here. We also have our solution file, which is Pandas solution here. And please note that we are in notebook number 8 at the moment. And in this notebook, first, we are going to cover Pandas basics. So we're going to learn how to define a data frame, how to get the type of a data frame, how to define a series. We will also go through a quick mini challenge. And then in part 2, we are going to learn how to use Pandas to read CSV data and to also read HTML data as well of the internet. Next, we are going to apply some Pandas operations. So we're going to learn how to just perform basic operations per se, such as selecting certain rows or, for example, merging data frames together. And then we are going to, in task 4, cover Pandas with functions. We're going to learn how to define a function and how to apply a function to a specific column in a data frame. And again, tons of mini challenges along the way. And then in task number 5, we are going to learn how to sort and order a data frame. And number 6, we will cover how to concatenate and merge basically data within Pandas. And that's it. That should simply conclude our notebook here. And again, as always, we are going to have mini challenges solutions at the end. So here are all the solutions. But please, I highly recommend that you guys do not check the solution and attempt to solve the mini challenge on your own. And I'm going to have a clear video explanation after I ask you guys to pause the video so you guys can compare your solutions with whatever I have in here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with task number 1. So let's go ahead and cover Pandas basics. So as I mentioned, Pandas is a data manipulation and analysis tool that is built on NumPy. And Pandas uses a data structure known as data frame. And as I mentioned, think of it as Microsoft Excel in a Python environment, essentially. And data frames empower programmers to store and manipulate data in a tabular fashion, just in rows and columns. That's all what it is. And simply, we are going to first build series, and then we are going to take it a little bit further into a data frame. So what a series is simply a single column. Think of it as a 1D, basically, array in a way. And if you have a data frame, then we are going to deal with multi-dimensional tabular data. So let's go ahead and load Pandas and get started. So to load or to import Pandas, I'm going to say import Pandas as PD, and that's it. Shift Enter, and that should essentially import Pandas. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to define a list. So I'm going to say my underscore list equals to, and this list will contain a series of and in this list is going to contain a list of stock ticker symbols. So for example, I'm going to have Apple. Next, I'm going to have Amazon. And then next, I'm going to have AT&T here. And if you go ahead and check out my list right now, if you press Shift Enter, here we go. So now I have the list that has Apple, Amazon, and AT&T. And what I could do next is maybe I can define, let's say, a label list too. So I'm going to call it label. And in that label, I'm going to say that's my stock number 1. And then that's my stock number 2. And at the end will be stock number 3. Okay, if you check out the label, if you press Shift Enter, here we go. So now I have the actual names of my stocks, which is Apple, Amazon, and AT&T. And here I have the corresponding label associated with it. Please note that we haven't done any pandas yet. All what I'm doing right now is I'm just defining lists. I'm just, like printing them out. And I wanted to check out the type as well of them. So I can go ahead, for example, and say, what's the type of, let's say, label? Shift Enter, it will tell me it's a list. And I can say also, what is the type for my list, for example? Well, it's telling me, obviously, it's a list as well. And what I could do right now, and that's the beginning of using pandas, I can create a one-dimensional pandas series first. And as I mentioned, what a series is, it is just a single dimensional tabular data. And a series is formed essentially of data along with their associated labels. So now I have two lists. One of them is my list, and the second one is the actual labels corresponding to that list. So in order to create a pandas series, I can go ahead and do the following. I can say x_series equals to, I can say PD, which stands for pandas, dot, and then if you say series, again, you will find the tons of options. If you just press tab, that should autocomplete. And please note that S here is uppercase. You open parentheses, and then you say my data will be equals to, and that will be my list. And then I'm going to say my index, and that will be the label here, list that we created. I can actually simply just copy it here and paste it here. And if I wanted to run it, so if you press Shift Enter, here we go. If you wanted to check out my series now, so I can go ahead and say X series. Oops, sorry, X series. Again, tab should autocomplete first. And then you press Shift Enter, here we go. So what you guys can see here is now I have created my first pandas series. And as you guys notice, now I have a list of labels. So these I have the stock 1, stock 2, and stock 3. And here I have the actual names for all these stocks, which is essentially Apple, Amazon, and AT&T. So if you guys wanted to check out the data type for my series, so I can say type for X series, again tab, if you press Shift Enter, here we go. And you will find that the data type is pandas.core.series. Okay, that's good. And that's it. That's how you create a pandas series. You are not going to, I would say, appreciate the value of pandas before covering what we call it a data frame. And as I mentioned earlier, what a data frame is that pandas uses a data structure known as a data frame, and it's simply what we call it Microsoft Excel in Python. So let me go ahead and cover the data frame, and you guys will start to actually appreciate pandas a lot more. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to assume that I have multiple clients at a bank. And these clients have many features. So for example, these clients have client ID, they have their name as well, and they also have maybe their net worth in dollars, and we also wanted to record their number of years with the bank, okay? So essentially that's the table that I'm trying to create, which is, this is a pandas data frame essentially. And here I have my bank client ID, here I have my bank client name, I have the net worth, and I have the years with bank. And basically I have 4 clients, and these are 111, 222, and so on. And these are the names for these clients. So let's go ahead and see how can we actually create this pandas data frame. So let's go ahead and get started. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say bank_client_df, which stands for data frame equals to. And to create a pandas data frame, I need to go ahead and do the following. I can say pd dot, I can say data. Again, tab should autocomplete, stands for data frame. You open parentheses, and you can go ahead and define a pandas data frame from a dictionary. So if you guys remember what a dictionary is, we have to specify, we open curly braces here, if you guys remember, and then we write key value pairs. So let's go ahead and write the first key, and then write the next value corresponding to that key. So my first key will be my bank client ID, and that will be here, the header here for the first column. And then this is my key, you add colon here, and then you open square brackets, and then you write what the actual value associated with it, which is essentially 111, 222, 333, and so on. So I can go ahead and do the following. I can say 111, 222, 333, and then 444. All right, looks great. And then you do comma here, and then you press enter, and then you specify essentially another here header, or another key value pair again. So the next one will be bank client name, and then as always you add a colon, and then you open square brackets, and then you write the following. You write Chanel, you write, let's say, Steve, you write, for example, Mitch, and then maybe you add, let's say, Ryan, for example. Okay, and then you add comma here, and next you specify your net worth in dollar value, and same deal, you add column, you open square brackets here, and then maybe you add, let's say, 3,500, for example, maybe 29,000, maybe you write 10,000, and maybe you write, let's say, 2,000, for example. And then next, you wanted to add the last column, which is going to be years with bank. So I'm going to call it here years with bank. Same deal, you add a column, you add square brackets, and then you specify the years with bank. So I'm going to write 3, 4, 9, and 5. All right, looks great. So let's go ahead and run that. If you press Shift Enter, here we go. So now I was able to define my first Pandas data frame. And as you guys can see here, if I wanted to check it out, I can go ahead and say, show me my bank client DF. If you press Shift Enter, here we go. So think of it again as Excel in Python, and that's what we have here essentially. We have a beautiful table that has rows here indicating banks, clients, and here I have columns indicating different features associated with these specific clients. So again, I have the bank client ID, their name, their net worth, and their years of bank with the bank as well. And if you guys wanted to check out the data type for my bank client DF, as always, I can go ahead and say type, and I can specify the name, which is going to be bank client DF. If you press Shift Enter, here we go. It will tell you that it's pandas.core frame.dataframe. And what's really powerful about data frames is that you can actually do a ton of data manipulations with them. So let's go ahead and get started with just the basics. So for example, I can go ahead and maybe visualize the first couple of rows in my data frame. So I can say my bank client df dot head, Shift Enter, and it can tell you the first couple of rows in my data frame. I can, for example, say, well, show me the only first 2 rows only. So I can say bank client df dot head of 2. If you press Shift Enter, here we go. So now I was able to only see the first 2 rows. I can also use what we call it dot tail, and that will show us the last elements within my data frame. So for example, I can say my bank client df dot tail, and I can say maybe show me the last row only. If you press Shift Enter, here we go. So now I was able to see the last row, which is simply what I have in here. Okay? All right. So please note that we're going to use head and tail quite frequently throughout the course. All right. I know that I have been talking a lot, especially that this is kind of, an introductory lecture to pandas. But now we have been able to actually create a data frame. We also created pandas series too. And trust me, pandas will make our life 10 times easier, specifically when we deal with financial data. For example, in the next lecture, I'm going to show you how to use pandas to read CSV data, which is super powerful because now you can have an Excel sheet essentially and use pandas to read that data sheet or CSV sheet in Python, and you will be able to do a ton of data visualization, data manipulation, a lot of tons of functions, tons of methods you can apply, and tons of operations, mathematical operations that you can perform on pandas data frames. And now it's time for the quick mini challenge. What I want you guys to do is to do the following. A portfolio contains a collection of securities such as stocks, bonds, and ETFs. I want you guys to define a data frame named portfolio df, and this data frame holds 3 different stock ticker symbols. It also holds the number of shares, and it also holds the price per share. And please go ahead and just feel free to choose any stocks essentially. And I want you guys to calculate the total value of the portfolio, including all stocks as well. So that will be a little bit of stretch. Okay, I didn't cover how to, let's say, sum elements in a data frame, but that's the idea of the mini challenge. I want you guys to just kind of stretch your limits a little bit. Maybe do a little bit of Google search. Try to do how can you sum maybe elements of a data frame that you just created. And please go ahead, feel free to give or assume any numbers or any stocks or any price. I just want you guys to just learn how to create data frames and maybe some elements in a data frame. So please go ahead, give it a shot, and I will see you guys after the challenge. All right, hope you guys were able to figure out the challenge. Let's go ahead and get started. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a data frame. I'm going to call it portfolio underscore df equals to. I'm going to say pd.data frame. Again, tab should autocomplete. You open parentheses. You open curly braces because we're going to create a pandas data frame from a dictionary. And here we go. And as you guys can see here, basically I need to specify the 3 different ticker symbols. So that's one of them. So I need to have here a key that is stock ticker symbol. And you add colon, and then you open square brackets, and then you write whatever symbols you need. Basically, I can say, well, I can go with Apple, and then I can go with maybe Amazon, and maybe I will go with AT&T, for example. Okay, looks great. Again, you add comma here, and then you write the next one. So the next one is number of shares. Well, I can add number of stocks, for example, or number of shares. You guys can call it whatever you want. You open a square bracket here, and then maybe you write 3, 4, and 9. Again, any numbers you guys can choose. And the last one will be price per share. So here I'm going to say price per share, and then you add maybe like a dollar sign here. You add a column, you open square brackets, and then you write the following: $3,500, maybe $200, and maybe $40, for example. All right, looks great. Let's go ahead and check out if that actually makes sense or not. I can copy that, paste it here, press Shift Enter, and here we go. So now I was able to create my second data frame here successfully. And again, I have all the ticker symbols. Here I have the number of stocks, and here I have the price per share. Okay, so the next question is calculate the total value of the portfolio, including all stocks. So what I wanted to do right now is I simply wanted to multiply, okay? Wanted to multiply the number of stocks by the price per share. So for example, if I multiply 3 times 3,500 plus 4 times 200 plus 9 times 40, that will give me the total value for all the stocks in my portfolio. And that's essentially will be around $11,000 approximately. So let's go ahead and do that. So I can go ahead and say, okay, go ahead please to my, let's say, I'm going to define a variable. I'm going to call it, let's say, stocks underscore dollar underscore value. And that will be the total value for each individual stock equals to, and then I'm going to create portfolio df. All what I need to do is to take the first here, the second column here, and multiply it by this one. Really simple. So I can say portfolio df, and I'm going to call it with its name, number of stocks. And that will be the first one. I'm going to say multiply that by portfolio df, well, of price per share. And please do not forget the dollar sign here. This basically has to exactly match what we have here as a column header. Okay? All right, looks great. Let's go ahead and print out my stocks dollar value. If you press Shift Enter, this is what you get essentially. So what I have in here is that I simply just perform multiplication. So I can go to my portfolio df, my data frame. If I open a square bracket and specify the name of the column, basically I'm saying, okay, please go ahead and get me the entire column. And if I multiply these two together by just doing multiplication, I was able to multiply each element by each element. So 3 times 3,500, and that's what I get here, around 10,000. 4 times 200, and that's 800. And 9 times 40, that's 360. But that's not the answer. I wanted to sum them up. Well, I can go ahead and just sum stocks $.value, and that's it. So I can go ahead and do the following. I can say print my total portfolio value equals to, you open curly braces, and then you say dot format, and here you pass along my stocks $value, but I need to sum them up. So if I say dot sum, that's it. Shift enter, and here we go. So now I was able to sum them up and end up with a portfolio value of $11,660. All right. Okay, so that's all I have for this lecture. I hope you guys enjoyed it. In the next lecture, let's go ahead and take Pandas to the next level by interacting with CSV data and also dealing with HTML data. It's going to be tons of fun. Please stay tuned, and I will see you guys in the next lecture.